Welcome to another episode of Intersections. I'm Karan Pinto. I'm part of the team at the Utopia Studio. Today, we have two very exciting entrepreneurial individuals here with us. We have Satheesh Kumar, who's the founder of Barrier Intelligence. We also have with us Jamal Kamaludin, who is the founder and CEO of Dextrum. So, if you're interested in learning more about this verification layer that allows us to build the fire and gas safety barriers as well as the verification audit layers that drive the future of commoditized fuels, stay tuned. Satish and Jamal, I'm really excited to dive deeper into the problem spaces that you're working on. Just to maybe set the context, about a year ago at the studio, what we did was we really thought long and hard about what are the spaces where we want to invest. Yeah. What are these spaces that are stable in time, that don't change in the next decade? We saw that there was a lot of capital flowing into the development and the growth of new infrastructure, billions of capital, but there was very little capital that flew into the maintenance, the performance management, as well as the intelligence of already degrading infrastructure. And if we look at it across the markets that we're most interested in, Southeast Asia, where you come from, the wider Middle East, Africa, and emerging economies, okay, there's a lot of critical infrastructure across energy assets, fuel assets that is degrading, right? It's ancient. So there's a lot of opportunities that we saw around this degrading infrastructure to build maintenance, performance, intelligence-based solutions. So we call all of that infrastructure intelligence. And we're so happy that you both are building in what we deem as infrastructure intelligence. So I'd love to, dive deeper into that particular space from your perspectives. But before we get started, it would be really nice, Satish, if you could tell us a little bit about your story, where you're coming from, and give us a little bit of your background.
Truly, it's exciting, Karan, for this conversation. So started my journey in India, working for a German multinational for 4 years, and then gone around Indian oil and gas industry and the southern part of India. And then I learned from the fundamentals of how the industry looks like, more on the EX, explosion protection equipments, industrial instrumentation interfaces. So that's my foundation into safety and process automation. And then that's more of my school to start with, right? So that's my foundation layer. And then I moved to Qatar. It's more of a, crazy decision to come from multinational, international company and then come for a SME, just set up from, zero. We set up a small office behind Radisson Blue. It's like the size of this studio. And then I'm the man to run the company on behalf of a business owner sitting in Abu Dhabi. So he's my mentor and boss. So with the small partnership we started, and then I running this company for 17 years in Doha, serving the oil and gas industry, providing fire and gas detection, which is my core domain expertise, to protect the plant, people, and assets. And then it was new that time. The plant is new. We are giving a brand new equipment, and then it's aged now. It's close to 20 plus years now. So that's my journey, both in safety, process, digitalization. So I started with instrumentation when it's coming. Now, the technology era. So then I go with the flow, so then I touch a ceiling, right? So when things are very comfortable, very luxury, and then I don't like it. So that's how I pivoted from a traditional business. I am now in studio.
So maybe could you tell us, because you've spent a lot of time on helipads, you've been offshore, you've been on the ground. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, what you were doing, and the years of deep domain expertise that you've crafted, especially in fire and gas safety, for context?
Yeah, that's quite a journey, I'm recollecting. It's a nice memory. So being a fire and gas practitioner, so I used to visit sites, offshore, onshore. Then, we take a chopper from Doha, 40 minutes flight. So I go to all the offshore platforms, we do assessments in the initial days, or sometimes there could be a problem. And then we need to do investigation along with customers. And then it's beautiful, and then go to offshore and then stay in the bed. We call it a hot bed, right? So we got a limited accommodation. We call it a living quarters. And then imagine the bed is used 24 hours, 3 shifts. People are using the same bed. But then it's truly an experience, traveling in the chopper. So I've been to multiple offshore sites. Each helideck is different, and then it's really a nice journey. And then same, you go to Ras Laffan, you go to Misaid. So go through all this high consequence. And this is the thing I learned, and this is the knowledge I've built from the industry and the region. Now it's my time to give back by solving the problem which I was seeing, which was invisible for us. And then we're going through a very tough time, and it was always a trauma. Why not we solve this? Why not we solve this? And I feel this is the time. And that's where I come to Utopia Studio, partnering with people like you and then our team, helping me. Otherwise alone, I'll be, taking ages or maybe lost. And this is a nice journey.
That's awesome. Maybe just to dive deeper into that, you spent many years at Qatar LNG, okay, working for them and stuff, and you realized there was this detection problem in fire and gas safety. Yeah. Could you explain that further? What is that in simple words for someone who is not that familiar or as deep into the space as you are?
Yep. So it's not just LNG. Of course, Qatar Energy LNG is the major asset we have in Doha, because the huge GDP comes from LNG. But then it's not just LNG. And then you go to Misaid, we're having downstream petrochemical plants. Then we go to offshore, we have production from crude oil or natural gas. And then we have downside of chlor-alkali. So we have several verticals in the oil and gas. So in any asset, if there is a hazardous application, right? So when you're producing oil or producing gas, imagine there is an explosive vapors, combustible vapors. It's present always. And then we don't want that, in an abnormal situation. Imagine a flange is, losing the gasket. And then imagine there is a leak. And then what is inside the pipe? It's scary. It's a high pressurized natural gas. And then with a huge percentage of hydrogen sulfide, which will kill people. And then the flammability of the vapor is enormous. So now we put barriers in place. There are several safety barriers we have to put in place to protect the people, property, and the planet. So fire and gas is the first barrier. We call it as the first line of fence to mitigate. As soon as the incidents start triggering, there is a gas leak, which we cannot avoid because due to corrosion, due to aging plant you mentioned. So things goes through tremendous, reactive inside the vessel, inside the tank, inside the flanges. Now imagine there's a leak coming in, so we need to catch them as quick as possible, and then we mitigate. So that's why fire and gas is called a mitigation barrier. We ensure the risk is reduced as much as possible before it escalates to a disaster. So that's the job of fire and gas. Okay, so now how we keep it, how we place it, how we design it, we go with the assumptions of where the leaks could be, and then how the leak can behave, and then we position the sensors in the places we believe the leak can go. But that's a trick, right? So the leak is carried by the wind, and then the physics is not really visible, and then these assumptions goes wrong. That's where the problem. And then what is the solution? Now we react to that by adding more sensors, but you're adding only in the place where you witness the leak, right? But then there are many other places, other areas. We call it as dead zones, blind spots. This is the problem. So earlier, I sell more sensors. I'm very happy. We make a lot of business from selling more sensors. But then the scary part is still the incident happens, which is not comfortable. So people in the plant live with that fallacy. Nothing happened, it's fortune. But fortune is not the proof. So that's where I'm building a solution where we need to solve this without adding more sensors, but we need to really use technology which is proving the physics of the plant. So physics for protecting the physical world.
I loved how you explained the fact that there was an invisible problem that for you as an industry expert, as someone who spent time in the space, it was obvious to. And I really like how you also framed that you are going back to the physics of things in terms of detecting the undetectable. And we're going to dive much deeper into that. But before that, yes, on the note of deep domain experts, I don't think there's anybody else, okay, that we've worked with yet that has spent more than the time you have actually in the field. So, Jamal, welcome to Intersections.
Thank you.
We're really glad that you've come and you're working with us here at the studio. It would be lovely if you could tell us a little bit about your story and the vast experience that you have on plants.
I was sent by the government, fortunately, to study in the UK back in the late 70s to do my degree in engineering. I started as a junior engineer, working in the design office in one of the new facilities that they were building. I was fortunate to join at the design stage. And as the project progressed, we at that time Malaysia doesn't have a capability to build the platform. This is offshore platform, just like your experience in Malaysia. So it got built either in Korea and Japan. So I got to follow through that project that I was working on. After the design complete, I was then sent to Korea for the fabrication of the offshore facilities. So I went through that phase. Then I spent about a year offshore, of course back and forth, doing the commissioning of that facilities. Yeah. So I went through design, fabrication, commissioning, and then I was seconded to the technical support team as a backup to the operation of that facility. So I went through the whole phase from design to operation and maintenance. So that was quite a good experience. Then after that, I've moved around. I moved around in the company. Then I was thinking of what to do. At that time, I'm 63, quite bored, thinking that I'm not doing anything. So I decided to do my MBA. Which I always wanted to do, during my younger days, but never got the time. So I did my MBA project on blockchain and AI. You cannot do certain things without this technology. You have to do certain things periodically, manually, because and I realized that blockchain and AI, the technology itself suit to make a lot of things simpler and continuous. Which lead to my thinking of Dextrum. It's a neutral platform collecting the data from the plant, and that can be used. I wouldn't say as an audit platform, but it's a physical evidence pulled out from the plant continuously that you can do a lot of things with that data. Being transparent, being truthful, being live, being continuous. A lot of advantages that you can do with that data.
Could you explain that? Because I think for people who are not that deep into the space, they don't understand the multi-party dimension in terms of the execution of some of these large projects. Yeah. Could you just simplify that for us, please?
Okay. I'll explain in the Malaysian context. Yeah, in the Malaysian context, what they do is that they come up with this thing called production sharing contract. The Malaysia have a national oil company, Petronas, but technology in oil production then is quite unique to certain privileged companies that do this worldwide. So to attract them to Malaysia, to invest in Malaysia, the government come up with this production share. Every country has a different way of doing this. So Malaysia have a production sharing contract where they give an acreage. For example, in my case, I was working for Exxon. They have an acreage offshore Malaysia. Then they have to do the exploration and production. Now, it's not a free-for-all. Malaysia say, okay, I'll give you that, but there is certain condition in the agreement.
I just want to bring it back to our context here. So now, given these multi-party arrangements, right? Like, what was the problem that you saw that you're trying to also address, which is the pain that you described?
So you can imagine that the crude oil, at the end of the day, is commingled. You have to reconcile belongs to who. You have to minus whatever the processing onshore. You minus they call BSNW, the water and the sediments. The gas, venture oil, some are flat. What you want is a stable crude that you put in the tanks, and then you're gonna
So what does Dextrum do in that context? I just want to close that loop there.
The current setup is that every company have their own system that do their own their own, I would say, allocation and balancing of what theirs. But this periodic check has its flaws. So what I realize is that with AI now and blockchain, we can, instead of doing a periodic collection of those data, why not we pull those data from the plant to make it a continuous data
So I
that's
think that,
available?
that's really nice, right? So just to
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
close that up
Yeah,
there,
close
right?
that,
I
yeah.
think we're really seeing verification,
Yeah.
come up as a category of
Yeah.
sorts, right?
Correct.
Where there's a lot of uncertainty in what's the honesty around data.
Trust.
So we're trying to the trust. We're
Yeah.
trying to find good compliance around that and,
Yeah.
and give accessibility to that. So there's
Yeah.
there's opportunity in that space, right?
Yeah.
Now, before we dive deeper into that specifically, I want to come back to you, Satheesh. And what would be really nice to understand is that if we step back a little bit, what is your vision for the companies that you're actually building, right? Like, what is that 5-year vision for Barrier Intelligence and for Dextrum, right? If you close your eyes and you see, okay, how does that kind of unfold? And that would be really nice to understand.
Honestly, Karan, I have a lot of things in the queue, but then started with the one barrier, which is fire and gas. And then barrier intelligence itself is going to close a lot of barrier issues, and then preventive barrier, protective barrier. So we're going to implement this into multiple levels of barrier management, and then proof of this barrier is working all the time to ensure the people, property, and planet is protected.
Okay.
And then the vision, 5 years down the line, it need to be a clear layer coming in the industry. Now, right now, there is no such layer called barrier proof, barrier assurance. It doesn't exist. So this category is going to be the norm of the industry of the future.
And where does this category sit in the, let's say, the stack? Like, does it sit closer to the infrastructure? Does it sit closer to the technology layers on top? Where does it fit?
So we call it a process safety layer. So it's clearly the OT, IT. It stays just above the OT
It's
layer.
the convergence.
Yeah, so just at the skimming of the OT layer, operation side. And then going back to vision, we are not ending just giving a barrier assurance as a proof. Safety need to be autonomous. And then this physics and physical AI is going to merge together nicely. We are working on the physics AI, and then think about the physical AI layer. We work with the drones and robots, and we want to ensure no human will be exposed to hazard. We are not putting a human at a risk because it's a high consequence, very dangerous situation in the plant.
Yes.
So we are envisioning like no human we are going to put that risk, high risk.
Yeah.
Whereas we put the machines, physics and physical AI is converging nicely, so that I call it as sleep at night safe.
Super night safe.
So
Okay.
then, and imagine the talent and knowledge is degrading, right? So because we have a lot of people working in the industry, like Jamal, I don't think anybody work in the future like that. Nobody's going to work like 40 years, 50 years in one job.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm seeing the youngsters moving towards tech and more fancy side. And nobody wear a coverall and dirty, putting crude oil and then you go into confined space. This is not the future. And then, the tribal knowledge is really a problem. And then imagine now we are going to have remote operations. Now we have still some offshores are unmanned.
Yeah.
Eventually, even majority of the onshore assets also going to be autonomous. So then we are building an autonomous safety layer. That's the future. And then, as I said, I'm not stopping there. I have a lot of other problems in my queue. I need to keep working on it. And then Studio is my channel to accelerate that, build the momentum. And then it's not my title or it's not my success. I won't really solve the problem in the industry, which given enormous knowledge and experience for me.
I get that completely, and I think this is where we want the studio to be a home to, is people like yourself, like fire and gas safety engineers and stuff, where we can get it on our side and help you build around your deep know-how in that particular space. Because a core thesis of ours has been around the fact that in a world where you can build anything, right? Who's the person that validates it, verifies it, and builds that trust network and capital to take it forward. And the story around what you're building is most authentic when it comes from you guys. Potentially maybe I could build the exact same thing that you're building from a technology standpoint, but it's really different given your unique context, your unique judgment, your unique strategy that has come from being deeply embedded into these systems and companies and operational environments, right? And I think that tacit knowledge is really important.
Yeah,
given also
the pain by
yeah.
perception is different to living with the pain.
Yes.
There's a huge difference.
That's a great. That's
Somebody
a great tune, yeah.
visualized the pain.
Yeah.
But then we were living with that for
We're
years.
living with it for years.
And
yeah.
then that trauma is making us to be so crazy.
To get that.
Quit the job and then build this and solve it.
Yeah.
And then this is really passionate to see how many problems we have like that. And then is it really worth solving it?
Yes.
Here there's no doubt about it, because we're talking about human lives.
Yeah.
We're talking about $1 million assets. We're talking about the high consequence risk reduction.
Yeah.
So here there is nothing to validate. It's very clear. This is really important to be solved.
And I think I want to come to you now, Jamal.
Yeah.
I think something that I deeply respect about you is the fact that you've almost at the end of your career,
Yeah.
but you're still so committed
Yeah.
to building something,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think it's version 2. We just start now.
He's just starting.
Because no. I mean, one of the things that I want to do is to impart knowledge. And one of the things that I was pursuing is to actually do a part-time lecturing in university or whatever platform that I can to impart my knowledge. And everybody kept saying, at 60, 65, you retire. Give room. So
What I'd like to do is get a little bit deeper into your
Sure.
what you guys are offering right now, right? What your product, what your solution, what your company is actually doing right now.
Sure, yeah.
Now, given the the sophistication of AI has increased, its ability to both detect things as well as deceive people has also increased, right? Both at the same time, and this verification component, this component of adding barriers to detect the undetectable, to solve problems that are invisible to the outside. That's something that both of you with Barrier Intelligence and Dextrums are working on. What I'd love is if you could give a very crisp explanation of what you're doing currently, the most differentiated thing that you have.
Look at the product is like this. Earlier we could not solve this problem. Why? When you talk about high fidelity fluid dynamics with the CFD, we call it, it's super slow. Like I talk about the leaks. You take a leak which is called as a scenario. Where it is leaking, what is the rate of the leak, and how is the wind, what direction, and what's the speed of the wind. Mm-hmm. So that's one scenario. And then we call it as, for typical offshore, we are talking about 700 to 800 scenarios. And then to go the high fidelity, CFD, to run this scenario and then make a simulation, it takes few days. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. When somebody asks me why not yesterday, why today? So it's physics, right? So physics never change.
Sure.
Physics is a phenomenon.
Yeah.
So it's a method used before for simulating the leak, predicting the scenarios. It's super slow. So then what happens here? The scientific ML, we call it as surrogated models. That is a game changer now. So now I can run thousands of scenarios super fast in milliseconds. And then we're not running every second because we have run enough scenarios. Now when you have uncertain leak, which never existed in the past, and that I need to run it. But there is a catch. Every scenario run in the surrogate need to prove to the real CFD. Yes. So that is called physics loss, right? Then we have a data loss. So both are really managed very well to get it, very accurate. And there's no false alarm, and there's no, falsifying. So AI comes as accelerator, not the judgmental on, it's not beating the physics. Yeah. Physics is the grounding. Physics is what the decision-making layer, but then AI is accelerator. So now to talk about product, so we bring with the first product called Ashur 3D, which is going to solve the design issues. Right now, they're using few scenarios with that CFD. We call it a fire and gas mapping to position the sensors. Now imagine you only can do 2 or 3 assumptions, which is run in CFD, and then you left all those other things due to computation issue.
This is on the design stage, right?
So in this design, you are already limited with what you can really predict, right? Yeah. And then that design paper not proving the proof of coverage. Yeah. So now with Ashur 3D, we are going to run a physics sweep in the design stage to position sensors in the most probabilistic detection. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're repositioning, and then imagine virtual sensor mess everywhere. Oh, yeah. Because we're sweeping and then thousands of scenarios, And then it's like,
Do you need anything? Are you looking for pilot users? Are you looking for investment? What's your ask?
so for this design product now, Assure 3D, we are looking to work with closely consultants. There's process safety consultants. We're using that to traditional mapping softwares, which is tedious, and then still not giving the true proof of coverage.
Okay.
Use Assure 3D. So then those consultants, now we are ready to do the first project. Okay, so you do the project with your traditional mapping and the conventional method,
Yeah.
and then B you do with Assure 3D, and then you see clearly what is the return of value what you're offering. Here how many sensors, what is the coverage you could prove. Now we are proving the Assure 3D, reduced number of sensors and most elevated coverage.
Okay.
And this clearly the outcome we want to get out of the POC. Now we are super excited to work with such consultants and bring the excited future transforming mapping.
Jamal?
Any joint venture basis, not just a typical, like Malaysian operation. It also work, for example, with Qatar Energy, where same thing. They have different ownership with the LNG operation, and my wish is to then do a pilot with one of these oil companies, preferably Qatar Energy here in Qatar, and the. To answer your earlier question about then how we move from there, the product that I'm trying to build, like I said, it can be in 2-3 years be vertically marketed within the energy industry, and energy industry also now have other critical venture into CCUS. So that's quite interesting path that Dextrum can leverage on that. Yeah, that's vertically. Horizontally, again, we can look at, for example, like power industries. Main power transmission now normally is a national owned, but they're now getting a lot of power from the independent power producer, and then now you have also the renewable energy factor all going to the same system. Then how you allocate that? I mean, you cannot physically separate the electricity into renewable and fossil fuel based or gas based. But then they want to take the credit in their business to be carbon neutral. So in that transmission, you have to identify, okay, this electricity is lovely, neutral. That's where Dextrum is going to be.
Are you looking for something specific, like a pilot, or are you looking for investment? What's your ask?
Can we get a paid pilot? It's a tough question,
Given how slow the industry is in terms of
the slow industries and not. So we may need to get some funding for financing our pilot.
No, lovely. And maybe that's the point I wanted to maybe emphasize on, right? Do you have any, wish lists? Do you have a wish list for us in terms of how we could, maybe get better for you guys, improve the environment for you guys? Because we really want to make sure that, we create a thriving place for entrepreneurs to win over the long term. And if you have anything that really resonated well, that you think would benefit other entrepreneurs out there, if you could share that would be great.
A few things. Number one, the Utopia OS is amazing, super amazing. And being a first cohort of fellows, I'm privileged to be part of it because I've seen from day one how we emerged. And today, it's really exciting, including the podcast and things like that. We are in a very nice setup now. And then we're really resourceful. And then we have the framework. So for others, what is Utopia operating system, right? So as fellows, we come with a very domain expertise, but it's raw, fluid, it's very chaotic. We know the problem, but then we don't know how to productize. And then how we can make it, to ensure the idea is really valid, and then it's going to solve a worthwhile problem, and they're going to be customers, and then is it going to scale it? So everybody goes through, theoretical, the typical incubators do the mentoring, you ensure the product fit, feature fit, and all those things, pure theoretical stuff. And then we work in, you work in your system, and then somebody is on the other side, and then your product manager is there, and then he's working with several fellows. So now what happens? There is an operating system clearly defining and then you check in the Utopia Studio website. It's very clear. It's for the world. We're creating something new, which is workable, and then make the life easier.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is your interaction with AI, which I think, when you both were introduced to it and, the way of using it, I think that was something that we had to emphasize on, is that actually it's better to spend more time as a human strategizing and doing judgment, and then just getting the AI to do a lot of the execution in terms of the agents for go-to-market products, so and so. But too much of AI at the start also is not beneficial, right? And any words from you about the studio or what you're taking?
I want to address a slightly different angle that I'm looking at now at Qatar level. I really admire what the government is doing to make Qatar as an innovation hub, to pull investors like Utopia to here, and then for your job is to bring the founders from global south into Qatar, to catch up with basically Saudi Arabia and what UAE has been doing. So I personally feel that to make that happen, we has to be in present here in Qatar. We cannot do this thing remote as a part-time thing. If Qatar want to make this really a hub, they have to be serious about, not how do you attract people to come from their comfortable base into Qatar. So my experience is that, I've been here now 1.5 months. Everybody asking me, when are you going back? And I say, I'm not going back. I'm gonna stay here and make it happen here in Qatar.
But there are a lot of fellows, don't want to stay here longer because they left the family. They want to come and build here quickly, get the acceleration and spin out from studio. That's a case.
Yeah.
So then in that, advantage, the Utopia OS, and then our infrastructure. Now we are building in studio, we are making our own compute facilities available for the fellows.
Yeah.
And then we have the full blueprint of the whole stack, how it works.
Yeah.
You can be in anywhere on the planet now.
And you could benefit from it. No, absolutely. Like, I think, look, just to maybe conclude, right? I think we're really looking to make Utopia as the place, to come and build and to scale. And I would like to thank all the teams that have worked with you guys, over the past few months. And, especially, you've come from Southeast Asia thanks to our Radical Fund team and Alex San and such there who brought you there. You've been locally coming through, QDB and also the Atypical Ventures Fund with Ahmed there. And I think the team has done an amazing job with you guys. On that note, maybe a few last words before I wrap up.
First of all, it's a privilege and blessing to have Utopia. From the word, we are going to build abundance from here. And then we are talking about 30 fellows and going to be 300, 3,000, I don't know. The vision is so big. And then it's really an honor to be part of in the first cohort. And then I remember the day one when we spoken, it's going to be chaotic and messy. And then really we love it, That's a way to set it up things nicely. And then it's momentum has come now. It's really accelerating. Now we have everything what a fellow needs to do. You come with a raw idea, and then you scale from here, and then we are partners. We are not some accelerator incubator. We just come and have a fixed contract. Even in my journey, it took some time because very deep driven, and then I almost close to the contract. And then I met directors, you and Oli, and then I was thinking it's contractually end. But as partners, we're having a very long journey. And that's really holistic what you're delivering to fellows.
Thank you.
And we are grateful for that.
Jamal?
Well, just an extension of that you have built this very excellent ecosystem. My part-time mission while trying to develop my Dextrum is that I'm trying to convince more and more Malaysian to come here.
Oh.
Because this is the time to do it in Qatar, because the government is really committed, spending 3 billion, I think the commitment, right? The fund, so fund is not an issue, which I have that problem, trying to, before I came here, I was trying to seek fund to develop my project, but unfortunately,
So it looks like studio need to be collaborating with all the embassies.
I mean, I don't know how we're going to do it, but
channel
I'll
to
do my
put all
little
the
part,
standards.
within my
Thank you.
circle, try to get more and more people. This is the time to do it with the fund, the technology, and the ecosystem that you build in Utopia Studio. Perfect match.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Satheesh. Thank you very much, Jamal, for your time.
Thank you.
I thank our listeners for tuning in.
Yeah.
We're really lucky to have amazing individuals like Satheesh and Jamal, who really know about their deep domain expertise. They know about their space, and that they're building great companies in those spaces. And we encourage you to connect with them. We encourage you to support them. There is a need for those early supporters, those early believers, and we want to show you that we have a home for that, where you can make mistakes, you can be comfortable, you can be bolder, you can take risks, and you can do something that maybe people out there told you that you can't do. So on that note, thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.